NASCAR confiscates the wheels from Team Penske and Roush Fenway Keselowski, and the Truck Series kicks their season off with a predictable bang. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome once again to Out of the Groove, coming to you live from Daytona. Again, I'm in the fan zone. This time I'm actually in the fan zone. You got fans even leaving behind me. Fun night of racing for the Truck Series. I'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, this episode is sponsored by Black Rifle Coffee. Wanted to give them another shout out. Proud sponsors of Noah Gregson's number 9 Xfinity team. Black Rifle Coffee is a veteran-owned business proudly serving military veterans and first responders. Head to their website, blackriflecoffee.com. That link is down in the description below to find out more. You can also check for a retail store near you. Thanks again to Black Rifle for being a part of the show. Let's talk about the truck race for just a moment. Then I'm going to focus on the developing story around Penske and RFK. I just got done watching the trucks. In fact, I think Zane Smith is still off in victory lane, just about 100 yards behind the camera here. It was a good race. Stage 1 and Stage 2 blew by. Not a lot of action, but Stage 3, there was probably a dozen times they were all but crashed until, they eventually did crash, come into the white flag. And boy, when they crashed hard. A couple dozen trucks probably involved, but it was a little controversial because NASCAR, whoever is running race control, and I believe they have a new guy actually, I don't know if he's running race control for the trucks, but I knew they have a new guy this week in race control. Whoever it is, they were quick on the trigger. They have cat-like reflexes because I actually took this video, and you can see even in my video, and you can see in other videos fans were posting on social media, that NASCAR did in fact throw the yellow flag, or at least threw the yellow light, about, 10 feet before the leaders crossed the start-finish line. So per the rule book, they were right to rack them and stack them and run overtime and finish this race almost under green. They still had another wreck and had to throw the caution there too. At least they were somewhat consistent there with what they threw cautions for. But yeah, NASCAR with a very quick trigger to ensure this race got an overtime, which it didn't really need, and actually it didn't really matter. Zane Smith won the race anyways. I was skeptical at first. I thought, they had to have wrecked past the start finish, right? And didn't we junk enough trucks? As Kyle Busch's t-shirt on pit road showed before the race, this was already a very expensive night for team owners. Did we need to rack them up and wreck even more trucks? Probably not, but the video was conclusive, definitive, that they did not cross the finish line yet. An overtime attempt was justified. So congratulations to Zane Smith. I thought overall it was a pretty typical Truck Series race at Daytona. Some ride around moments, young drivers learning new things about the draft, with plenty of fireworks at the end. Now let's talk about the big story from earlier this afternoon. Earlier today, NASCAR announced that they had confiscated the wheels from Team Penske, their 3 cars, their 3 drivers, and Roush Fenway Keselowski, the 2 teams, the 2 drivers that swept the dual races last night. NASCAR didn't give any more information other than they were bringing the wheels back to the R&D Center in Charlotte for further inspection, and they did say that any potential penalties would be announced at a later date. So this isn't going to affect Daytona, other than now Roush Fenway Keselowski and Penske have to scramble to get new wheels together last minute before the 500. Bob Pockers from Fox Sports tweeted that the issue seemed to be with the pinholes on the wheel, that RFK, Penske were doing something different to them that would theoretically make pit stops faster. It would be easier to take the wheel off and put it back on, and if you were to mess up, it'd be easier to recover, therefore saving valuable seconds on pit road. Brad Keselowski, co-owner of RFK, then told Bob Pockers and Jordan Bianchi that it's not a performance-related item. Once they, NASCAR, see all the data we have behind it, it shouldn't be an issue. We made some safety changes to the wheels. So Brad Keselowski saying that the changes, whatever they did to the pinholes, were in the name of safety. Of course, he's not going to come out and say, we're getting a performance advantage. That was to make our pit stops faster, maybe illegally. Brad Keselowski saying exactly what he was supposed to say. After practice today, he spent, according to Bob Pockers again, about 20 minutes in the NASCAR hauler, and afterwards said that he wasn't too worried. He felt like the conversation was productive and that he wasn't overly concerned about hefty penalties down the line, because that's where this conversation shifts to. We talked about on this show a couple weeks ago when NASCAR announced it that with the next gen, a spec car and many spec parts, the penalties have been ratcheted up. The intensity, the cost of a team skirting the edge or maybe overstepping their boundaries was astronomical compared to years past. Playoff points were in jeopardy. A team's playoff eligibility was now in jeopardy. They're talking about suspending whole teams for weekends. That's the kind of harsh penalties NASCAR put into place for this season to make the next gen car successful. We're not even a week into the regular season, and already we could see these penalties come into play. Now, it's not 100% clear how egregious the pinhole penalty or the pinhole issues may be. And again, maybe Brad Keselowski was able to plead his case properly that it was a safety issue, maybe a gray area, something that some teams are frowning upon, other teams kind of understand. Maybe it isn't that egregious. But I mean, we can look back at NASCAR's statement from a few weeks ago. If you look in their rule book, an L3 penalty includes altering or modifying tires. And with an L3 penalty, you could face an up to 180-point penalty, up to 50 playoff points deducted from your team. We could be talking about a $500,000 fine. Theoretically, NASCAR could park the team for a week if they wanted to. I don't anticipate these penalties rising to that degree. It certainly doesn't sound like Brad Keselowski is particularly worried about it, but there could be something there. We'll see later this week what NASCAR decides, what they determine, but this could be the first example. In fact, Penske, RFK could be made an example of by NASCAR. Do not mess with these spec parts. Do not mess with the parts you get from suppliers. These cars are supposed to be equal. They're supposed to be virtually identical underneath the sheet metal. If you're messing with that kind of stuff, this could be NASCAR's opportunity to drop the hammer, to crack down, to send a message to the rest of the garage area. Maybe it was just a safety thing and other teams aren't worried about it, but to me, somebody had to blow the whistle on this. Someone got wind, and maybe a competitor, a different team got wind of this and brought it to NASCAR's attention. So clearly somebody wasn't happy with it, or maybe believed it was giving the team a performance advantage. And it is worth mentioning in the duels the other night that the Ford teams in both races seem to be more organized and seem to get on and off pit road better than the other manufacturers. And that's kind of what helped decide the results of both those races. I didn't see the actual pit times, and I know like in some cases the Toyotas weren't organized. Denny Hamlin was spent out on pit road, but Fords did do well on pit road last night. So maybe someone blew the whistle, maybe somebody caught wind of this. Now NASCAR's caught wind of this, it's in their hands. Brad Keselowski can say that, yeah, we had a productive meeting, it was just safety, not a performance enhancer by any means. We're not worried about penalties, but NASCAR gets the final say. And they seem pretty serious. They seemed pretty strict a couple weeks ago. We'll see now how strict these potential penalties will be. If you want my prediction, and this isn't really based on a whole lot, but I predict they'll give them maybe an L1 level penalty, or they'll slap them on the wrist and maybe tweak the rule book slightly to put into actual literature whether this kind of thing is allowed. We'll see what happens. That's just speculation on my part, but yeah, some pretty serious news developing here at Daytona. We'll see what comes of it later this week. That's all I've got for you here tonight. I got to hit the road, get back, get some sleep. We got people in the background still having a fantastic time. It was a great night of racing here at Daytona. We got 2 more days ahead of us. I got to get my rest, but thank you all so much for watching and supporting the channel. Shout out to my Patreon supporters. As always, couldn't do this without your tremendous support. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, leave a like. It really helps the show out. I truly appreciate all of your support. We'll be back later this week. I've been filming a lot of random stuff while I've been here. We're going to try and package it together as the days go on, but tomorrow is the Xfinity Series race, the Beef. It's What's for Dinner 300. I will see you all at the track. Thanks for watching, y'all. Have a great rest of your evening.